Alright guys, we now have all three cabinets or the base units for the bookshelves all assembled, and the next thing we have to do is start doing all the face framing. And to do so, I need to take measurements of the cabinet going all the way around. We could do the one on the workbench, which we already have, but we have the other two sitting right over here on the floor. What we want for measurements, we want the overall width, which is 45 and 5/16. And I've already measured all of them. They're all 45 and 5/16. So that's the overall width. And then we want the overall height, which is 47 3/4. So with those numbers, what that lets me know is that all my legs, they need to be 47 3/4 for all three cabinets. So I need a total of 6 legs at 47 3/4. And then all of my shelves are gonna be the same width as my top shelf at 45 and 5/16. But that 45 and 5/16 is the measurement of the overall cabinet. And I'm gonna have stiles running vertically. I think they're gonna be about 1 5/8. So overall, I need to subtract 3 1/4 from 45 and 5/16. And that would give me 42 1/16 would be the width in there if my stiles and rails end up being exactly 1 5/8. But we'll see what I can get. I have some 3.5 inch 1x4 material, so I'm going to rip all those, cut them to the rough lengths. Feeling kind of bold. I might go ahead and cut them to the exact lengths out of the stock, then go ahead and rip everything. Then I can assemble all the stiles. Another thing I'm going to do over on the miter saw though is cut all of the, I have some finishing moldings, a couple end panels and those things, and I have a bunch of 16-foot material here in the shop, which is taking up a lot of space. So what I'm going to do is actually break down all that material to shorter pieces. I know like my crown molding, my whole entire cabinet is about 1 inch and it's about 143 inches, so I'm gonna cut that. I'm already probably gonna put the miter on the outside too, cut a miter on the outside and make it like 150 inches give or take, because my return back to the wall is only gonna be the depth on my upper cabinet, which is 7 inches. So I can actually cut both miters here in the shop, and I can just cut the back end to length once I actually get there on site. So that's probably what I'm going to do for the crown molding, the baseboard, and everything else. So that way, at least I'm not having 16-foot material here inside the shop. Another thing that we do need to do is make the countertop. So the first thing we're going to do though is face frame. We're going to break down all the 1x material that we have in the shop, get it to rough lengths or exact lengths on the miter saw. We're going to move over to the table saw to rip it, and once we get everything to the right size, then we're going to go into the actual pocket holding and assembling of all the face frames. After that is done, in the next video we're going to be tackling making up the countertop and everything else. And then the next time after that, we should be going into the actual install. Should be the next 2 days. So if you guys are enjoying this, definitely let me know down below. Leave me a like and also subscribe. Check out all my other social medias as well. But yeah, let's get over to the miter saw and start breaking down this material. We already done the math that we needed to, so let's get over there and start breaking stuff down. Alright, now we reposition over here on the miter saw. I was going to cut everything to exact length, but what I'm going to do is break everything down to about 8 foot. Then I'm going to move over to the miter saw, then I'm going to do all the ripping. And then I'll come back to the miter saw with a stop block and cut every individual piece to the proper size. Well, I'm trying to think what would be easier. Cutting more things here at the miter saw with a stop block, or having to rip a bunch of short pieces. If I cut everything to 8 foot, I can run it through the miter saw and that's less pieces through, I mean not miter saw, but less pieces through the table saw. So I'm figuring cut everything to about 8 foot, so all my pieces are about 46, 43 inches in that range. So if I cut them all to 8 foot, I know I can get 2 pieces that I can then rip into 4 pieces. So cut everything to 8 foot and then go over to the table saw to rip everything to the 1 5/8 versus a bunch of 4 foot pieces that all then have to get ripped in half. You know, just trying to think about the less ripping, or which saw I'd rather spend more time at. It's actually an interesting question, because I guess if I cut them all to length, just ripping them would be done instead of bouncing back and forth between two saws. I've done it both ways. I don't know why in this case I'm thinking, maybe because I have 16-foot material. That's probably what it is. Typically when I do cabinets, I just grab a bunch of 8-footers. So like, it's not really a big deal to rip everything to the 1 5/8 or cut everything to the proper length. Right now I'm dealing with 16-foot material that I'm just tired of having in the way in the shop. So I just really want to get all this broken down, because even if I don't finish today, that'll at least eliminate me having 8-foot material in the shop. That is why I think I'm doing this way. Probably doesn't make sense. Probably not the best method, but that's what we're doing today. Another thing this allows me to do is show off the miter saw wings. There's another wooden support underneath, and right there is where it's resting on the block, which is resting right on the support. So this is the most sturdy what the extension wings get. And we're going to 8 foot. What I would like to show you guys though is a 16-foot board. See, when does it stop tipping? Right there. I have no hands on the material. And from the edge to the blade, we have 13'6". This is only a 1x4, but there's not many instances where you can have a mobile miter cart station like this that can support material. Again, this is only a 1x4. I do plan to actually, because this is supported by a piano hinge, I plan to actually beef this up to stronger hinges, and same thing with the hinges that support this wing right here. And then I want to add some corner bracing to the cabinet to keep it from racking. I think that will, one, increase the strength of this, but just from the length of the capacity, the length of the wings themselves is what gives me the support that I like. You know, this is a long board to have completely supported out there that you don't need an extra hand to support. So once you throw your one hand here, you know the board isn't going anywhere. Versus like, you know, struggling on a smaller. Actually, let's roll this in. The standard miter saw cart that you guys find online, the wings are actually right here. I believe this is like the 30-inch wing. And she's off the bed of the saw right there. So let's bring it forward. And we're looking at 11 foot 8 inches. And then my stand itself is already another 3 inches longer. So actually the pivot point will be right here. So I'm not sure exactly what they can cut standardly, but I think it's like a 10-foot board comfortably on the standard 30-inch wings. So having that expansion inside of your wings is just a nice feature. And that's not the full distance that it does roll out. It rolls out like an additional, this is where I had it. It comes out like an additional 10 inches. And with the full capacity, we're at 14 foot 5 inches. I typically stop the expansion. There's an additional board that runs across here, and this is just a series of 2x2s that have a backboard here that keeps it from sliding all the way out. So the way that I strengthen it is by lining up that 2x4 with the vertical support right here. So when the back edge of the wing gets lined up right here and right on top of that board, it doesn't have the ability to cant or pivot. So this makes up the strongest, form of the extension wing. Go a little further out. If I was to put a lot of weight on this down here, I'll worry about it breaking. As you see here, what it does more is actually tip or rock the saw, which is why I need to add corner bracing. This I kind of just built a cabinet and threw 1/4 inch paneling on the back. I did like a full 1/2 inch plywood on the back side of the cart, so it would have been more rigid. I just realized that I completely rambled about the miter saw cart and not about these cabinets. So I'm gonna get back to work. The rest of this is gonna be sped up, and we're gonna get to chopping stuff here at the miter saw. Alright, that is all of the 1x4 pieces broken down. Let's cut this one 13 foot. It's gonna get ripped down for the top, and then this piece of crown I could go ahead and miter and just leave it long too, just to avoid having to carry a 16 foot piece around with me. I might do that. Probably not now though, because I have some 1x6 that are also going to make up the baseboard. Which I might cut all this down, but it doesn't have to be right now. Let's get the cabinets built before I start messing with the auxiliary trim. Alright, so now we're going to switch over to the table saw and start actually ripping down all these pieces. Alright, we're back here at the table saw. And the next thing we need to do is go ahead and rip all these pieces for the stiles and the rails, as well as the face frame for the top itself. I know I hit the record button. I decided to double check because I'm not quite trusting it. Alright, so what we want is 1 5/8 inch. Because these are 3.5 exactly, minus 1/8 is 3 3/8. 1.5 inches will give us 3 inches. I could go 1 inch and 11/16. But I would have to have it dead nuts on 1 inch and 11. Let's test it on this piece here. So yet again, my mic had died, and I ended up rambling on for this section for probably about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, so I'm gonna cut that short. Essentially, I'm just trying to make sure that I have enough rips to kind of do all my face framing. That's all this is. Alright, let's catch up into the next section. Alright, so we're back over here at the miter saw. The next step that we need to tackle, make sure my mic is on. Tackle was cutting all the horizontal pieces, and the number that we set it on was 45 and 5/16 was the overall. After taking 2 stiles, or 2 of these pieces that we ripped down, butted them together nice and tight and took a measurement, and I got 3 5/16. So 45 and 5/16 minus 3 and 5/16 is 42 inches. So these pieces need to be cut all to 42 inches. So I'm gonna set up a stop block to 42, and then I need a total of 12. So that's 2 of them. And then I have my other 8. And then I need to cut 1 out of that 12-foot piece over there. And then I'm gonna reset up the stop block for all the vertical stiles. And then we can go into pocket holding everything together. So we're aiming for 42 inches. The first thing I want to do is cut the factory edge off. Alright, so we had cut all of the horizontal rails. The next thing we need to do is cut all the vertical stiles. And after taking the measurements earlier, we were sitting at 47 3/4. So we'll measure that and then readjust the stop block. 47 3/4. Alright, so with that we have all of our stiles and all of our rails cut. The next thing we need to do is go ahead and drill all the pocket holes inside of each one of the rails. These are going to be all the horizontal pieces that are going to run in between the stiles. So we're going to pocket hole and then go ahead and start assembling all of these. After that, we need to tackle getting all the placement for all the shelf rails. We know we're going to put one at the very top. That's going to be at the top of the cabinet. There are other 3 I do want to position specifically cabinet to cabinet. I want to make sure that each one of the rails end up perfectly flush with the top of the shelf. So it's going to take a little bit of marking in place, but we'll be able to tackle that once we actually get the outside perimeter assembled and all the pocket holes driven inside of all the rails. So let's switch over to the table saw and we'll start drilling pocket holes. And to everyone who stayed till the end, I have a few clips I want to show you guys of the finished product. But if you have enjoyed, let me know down in the comments, leave me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.